Ghost Guest House. Episode 1. Sitting alone quietly, sipping a cup of coffee on the balcony, Hong held a Tang-Long cigarette in his mouth, occasionally taking a puff of white smoke. His eyes glanced into the distance, as if recalling a story that happened a long time ago. Just a moment later, Huang's body suddenly shivered. Even his heartbeat and breathing gradually became uncontrolled. A cold wind suddenly blew past his back, bringing the cold of the night dew, blowing on the back of his neck. Not knowing since when Hong had developed symptoms of fear of the dark and sudden cold winds. Perhaps it was after the terrifying story that happened more than 3 years ago. Is that Hong? How are the preparations for the business trip to Laokai going? There's nothing to prepare, just a few sets of clothes, some personal belongings, and that's it. Don't be subjective. Going to Laokai is not like other provinces. There are difficult roads, sparse population, poor conditions, and many places don't even have phone signal. Oh, the general has never been there before, he said, as if he had lived there since he was a child. Well, you don't watch YouTube. People still make reality shows going up to the highlands to experience and explore. Well, that's just people doing it in the forests and mountains, and it was like that many years ago. But now everywhere is developing and innovating. The person who was talking to Hong just now is named Hien. He is arguably his closest friend in the company. Every day after work, if they are not in a hurry, the two of them also invite each other to hang out at a cafe. Hearing Hien say that, Hong also felt a bit worried. Okay, thank you for reminding me. I will prepare everything carefully and thoroughly, so that the business trip goes smoothly. 3 days later, in a 4-seater Vios car, Hong drove straight to Baotang Town, Laokai Province. The distance from the company to there was nearly 300 kilometers. Along the way, he occasionally stopped to rest a few times to ensure his alertness. The road became more and more winding and winding. Going up here, Hong felt a completely different atmosphere, fresh and cool, peaceful and relaxed, not as bustling as where he was living. Along both sides of the road, hills and ancient trees lined up to cover the road. The purpose of Huang's trip this time was to go to a factory that produces canned food and packaging. If it met the standard conditions, his company would officially sign a contract, and it would become one of the chain of factories supplying cans for his food manufacturing company. Although the appointment was tomorrow, because the road was far away, Hong wanted to arrive a day earlier to arrange accommodation and have time to rest. When he arrived, it was already afternoon. Hong did not immediately look for a hotel or motel, but instead walked around to enjoy the scenery, because he rarely had the chance to come here. It was not until late afternoon, when he was exhausted, that Hong went to the town center to find a motel. However, after going to all the motels and hotels, they all said they were full or had been booked in advance. The more he walked, the more disappointed Hong became. Only later did he remember that today was Valentine's Day, the holiday of love. No wonder all the motels and hotels were full. Because he was too absorbed in work and career, Hong still did not have a lover, so he never seemed to care about these holidays. That's why everyone at Huang's company gave him the nickname Master Hong. It was almost 9 p.m. now. The darkness had almost swallowed everything. Up here, Hong felt the darkness was coming even faster. Each drop of night dew had covered the leaves, even blurring the glass, blocking the front of his car. Time continued to pass. Hong had gone to almost all the motels and hotels around the district. He believed that even if he went to other districts at this time, there was a high chance that he would encounter a similar situation. In Huang's mind, he had thought about the prospect of having to sleep overnight inside the car. He did not dare to sleep at any local's house. First, he did not know them. Second, would they trust him enough to let him sleep? Then there were the troubles, inconveniences, and risks that no one could foresee. After wandering around for a while, until his eyes were so tight that he could not open them anymore, Hong suddenly braked when he saw an old, torn sign erected outside a narrow alley with the 4 words and Bin Motel. Looking at the condition of the sign, Hong could guess that it was certainly in a bad state. However, he was at the end of his rope. He only needed a bed and a clean, warm mattress to sleep on, and didn't care about comfort or beauty. Hong lowered the car window and stuck his head out to see the phone number clearly. However, the last 2 numbers were torn, so he had no choice but to drive straight into the deep alley. It was already dark outside, but inside everything was even more quiet and desolate. This alley wasn't too wide. It seemed like it wasn't designed for people like Hong to drive cars. If he saw another car coming out, Hong would definitely have to back up because there was only enough space for a motorbike to pass through. On both sides of the alley were walls that looked very old and ancient, with moss and white phosphorus sticking out like sheep's wool. Strangely, Hong didn't see any houses in this alley. It was like a train track leading straight into the heart of the mountain. The night fog was getting thicker and thicker, making his vision gradually narrower. Then suddenly, in a moment, Hong was scared out of his wits when something crashed into the windshield of his car. Huang's heart skipped a beat, and a screeching sound broke the silence here. Looking back, Hong was even more terrified. Outside the windshield, a pair of green eyes were looking in. He screamed. Only when he realized it was an owl did his fear subside a little. Reaching out and slapping the windshield hard, Hong wanted to chase away, but it barely reacted. Its eyes were still fixed on him, staring straight at him. Hong couldn't stop the sweat from his hands and feet at this moment. This owl's eyes were very strange. It wasn't like a normal animal. The gaze seemed to have a spirit that drilled deep into his consciousness, making him feel a shiver run down his spine. Hong didn't dare to go any further, quickly shifted the gear lever, and backed away. At the same time, suddenly a face appeared on the side of the car, along with a deep voice. "You came here to find a motel, right?" Because the other person appeared so suddenly, Hong was startled again. When he looked in front of him, the owl had disappeared. Strange things happened one after another without warning, making him unable to keep calm. Seeing that, the other man continued, "Did you come here to find a motel? I am the owner of the motel?" Hong nodded. The other man signaled him to lower the car window. Then he continued, "My motel is just a short distance away. Just follow me." Having said that, without waiting for Hong to speak, he walked straight forward to lead the way. Hong was actually quite confused at this moment. Half wanted to follow, but half also wanted to turn back. Going deep into the alley about 100 meters, Huang's eyes were caught by a gate that looked quite old. On both sides hung 2 red lanterns. The dim light shining down made the scene even more magical. "Is it here?" "That's right. Just drive in here. It looks like this, but it's very spacious inside." Looking deep inside, Hong only saw a vast black space. He continued to speak. "Why is our motel so dark, Uncle? Does no one come here to rent it?" The short man, with a big belly like a ball, his hand still in his thick coat pocket, replied, "It's because this place is hard to find, and it's far from the residential area. So only occasionally do people come here to stay overnight." Hearing that, Hong felt a bit suspicious, because if that was the case, the business would definitely not be able to last for a long time. As if reading Huang's thoughts, the man immediately explained, "Actually, this motel used to be very crowded, but since the demolition project, it has become like this. My wife and I are old now, so let's try to maintain it and make ends meet." Hearing this, Hong somewhat understood what the other person said. Even though he didn't want to go in, he couldn't bear to refuse. "So what's the price for the night, Uncle?" "Oh, well, you can pay whatever you want. I didn't give you a fixed price." Hong was surprised. It was the first time he rented a motel and encountered such a strange owner. Afraid of being scammed, he still gave a price to negotiate first. "Then I'll just pay you 500,000. What do you think?" "Okay, just drive in here. Don't worry, I won't charge too much." Hong wanted to ask a few more questions, but seeing the old man's attitude, he stopped. After getting out of the car, he looked around and saw that the house had a total of 3 floors. Looking at the condition, it was just as he had predicted. Everything was in a state of disrepair. Surrounding all 4 sides were towering acacia trees. On the side of the house was an ancient banyan tree, its lush foliage covering almost half of the yard. It was unclear what it was like to enter here during the day, but in the middle of the night, Hong felt a chill run down his spine. Although the lights in the house were turned on brightly, the feeling of insecurity and fear in him did not lessen in the least. Here is your key. Room 307 with a proper water heater." Hong took the bunch of keys and asked again, "Yes, are all the electrical and water appliances in there still working properly?" Don't worry, we still clean that room regularly. Everything is still working well. Slowly walking up each step of the stairs that still had a thin layer of dust on it, the wall next to Hong still had huge spider webs hanging all over it. Through those images, Hong was a bit suspicious of the owner of the motel's words just now. Climbing straight up to the third floor, Huang's eyes were in a dark hallway, reaching out to find the light switch, but couldn't find it. He had to fumble his way by the light from his phone's flashlight. Each clattering footstep echoed. That was the only sound Hong could hear at the moment. It echoed continuously from the darkness, as if here, besides his footsteps, there were also the footsteps of many other people. His room was at the very end of the hallway. Hong took a deep breath to calm down. He slowly took out the keychain and opened the door. A creaking sound rang out. A cold feeling quickly surrounded him. When the lights were turned on, Hong was a little surprised because everything was different from what he thought. This room was indeed very clean. Even the lime layer around the four walls seemed to have been newly repainted. It was unclear whether all the rooms were like that, or if this was the only room like that. After a whole day, tired and lethargic, although his body was stinking, Hong still ignored it and quickly lay down on the bed to regain his strength. Everything inside this room was very simple. A wardrobe, an air conditioner, a convex TV, a small cupboard to store things, and that was it. Hong could not ask for anything more, because this was just a cheap motel in a remote highland area. After resting for about half an hour, he took out his clothes and took a shower. Each stream of warm water poured down, making Hong feel comfortable and pleasant. His body seemed to be regenerated with a new source of energy. However, right after the soap bubbles on Huang's head were washed away, he opened his eyes and looked down at the ground, and he was horrified. At his feet, there were no cool drops of water, but a red color as if he was standing in a basin of blood. Hong screamed and jumped up, but in a moment, everything immediately returned to normal. Looking up at the corner of the bathroom, Hong then knew that the main cause was the red light bulb installed inside. He had never seen this arrangement in any motel, and he did not know why they did it. Although he knew the reason, it still made him unable to avoid being haunted by confusion. Despite being completely naked, Hong quickly grabbed a towel and quickly walked out. Sitting on the wooden chair next to the locker, Huang's face still showed a clear look of bewilderment. The space of the room suddenly became strangely gloomy. It took Hong half an hour to calm down. Even though he didn't want to, Hong still had to step back into the bathroom, because he still hadn't rinsed off all the soap bubbles. Unlike before this time, as soon as he stepped in, Hong immediately got goosebumps. He felt like somewhere in the dark, there was an eye watching him intently. Reaching out to grab the knob, Hong slowly turned on the water to let it flow down. But as soon as he touched it, he was scared out of his wits, because the water was now as cold as ice. Perhaps the hot water in the tank had run out. Not wanting to continue waiting, Hong could only grit his teeth and endure, already carrying fear and anxiety on his body. At this moment, coming into contact with the cold water made the fear increase to its peak. His whole body trembled, and his gun also shrank and disappeared. After rinsing, Hong quickly dried himself to reduce the cold. However, when he reached for the towel, when he saw his image in the mirror, Hong was suddenly startled. For a brief moment, it seemed like the image in the mirror was not him, but a long, loose strand of hair covering it. Hong screamed again, but then that image quickly disappeared, replaced by his face in a state of fear. Regardless of whether he was seeing things earlier or not, Hong did not dare to stay in here for another minute, grabbed a towel and rushed out at the speed of an arrow. From the moment he entered here, Hong continuously encountered strange phenomena that could not be explained, making him vaguely realize that there was something unusual about this place. When he finished changing his clothes, the phone rang. Hong picked it up and saw that the person calling was none other than Hien, his best friend. "Hello, is this Hien?" "Yes, it's me. How's the situation up there? Is everything okay?" Hong hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's okay, but I encountered something very strange, my friend." "What's wrong? What happened to you? Or did some girl from the tribe up there seduce you?" Hien then laughed out loud. "No, it's not that. Something else. Tell me what's wrong. Why are you stuttering like a chicken with its hair caught in its throat?" Today I rented a room, but it was so strange. It was like being haunted. Since I entered here, so many things happened. Hien heard that. The smile on his mouth also disappeared, replaced by a look of surprise. What did you say? Did you see a ghost? Nonsense. No, I swear I'm telling the truth. So what did you see that made you say you saw a ghost? Tell me. Then Hong slowly recounted the whole story, from the moment he entered here and met a strange owl, and then what happened in the bathroom. On the other end of the line, Hien couldn't help but get goosebumps. Gosh, are you serious or joking? Why does it sound like something from a horror movie? This guy, do you think I'm so free that I'm joking? Don't believe me? I'll call you for a video call. Then the two switched to calling each other on Zalo. Looking at that room, even though it was only over the phone, Hien also felt something a bit creepy, especially when Hong turned the camera toward the bathroom. Hien's hair stood on end. Yeah, looking at that house and phone, I also felt that it was a bit strange. But why didn't you find a decent, clean hotel to rent? I told you already. Today is the day of the damn day. So every place is full. Hien replied. I told you already. When going up there, you have to prepare everything carefully, even booking a room. You should have booked online in advance. Hong clicked his tongue. Who knows? Maybe it's just a holiday. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so bad. After that, the two of them continued to sit and chat until it was almost 11 o'clock at night, when Hien yawned tiredly. He wanted to turn off his phone and go to sleep several times, but Hong tried to hold him back. However, at this point, he could no longer keep his eyes open, so he could only be rude to his best friend. The beeping sound rang out, and the atmosphere in the room quickly returned to a stuffy silence. Looking out the window, Hong only saw a few tall acacia trees, swaying back and forth. The idea of staying up all night flashed through his mind, because Hong was afraid that something scary would happen while he slept. But if that happened, tomorrow Hong would go to meet his partner with a pair of dark eyes like a panda and long yawns like a drug addict. So what an image would that be? Not to mention that if his mind was not clear, it would lead to incorrect speech and decisions. Taking out a pair of headphones from his backpack, Hong put them on and turned on the music really loud to force himself to fall asleep. He didn't dare turn off the lights, and even kept the door half closed so that if something happened, he could escape in time. While he was softly immersing himself in the pop ballads, Hong heard somewhere a dripping sound like water flowing. At first, he thought it was a melody in the lyrics, but it was clearly not. The sound of water flowing kept coming drop by drop, no matter how much he tried to turn up the volume. The sound still seemed to be able to penetrate his eardrums. Until Hong took off the headphones, the sound seemed even clearer. Trying to breathe deeply, Hong slowly walked toward the bathroom door. When the distance was only about 3 steps, Hong jumped, because inside there was a rushing sound like someone had just flushed the water. Before he could recover from his fear, the main door outside slowly opened. Behind him, a white, round face like a rice cake appeared. Hong immediately screamed and quickly stepped back. Only when the door was completely open did he realize that it was a short, fat woman. Hey, what's the matter that you're screaming? Who are you? Why are you coming into my room in the middle of the night? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the owner of this motel. I heard my husband say that someone had come to rent a room, so I came up here to check. Only then did Hong come back to his senses. You scared the hell out of me. Why did you come in without knocking? I was afraid that you were already asleep, so I didn't dare knock, afraid of disturbing your sleep. And why did you sleep with the door wide open like this? Hearing that, Hong didn't know what to say. It would be embarrassing to say that he was afraid of ghosts. He could only mumble, "Oh, I forgot to close it at dusk." And was there any theft here? There has never been a theft here before, but I still have to be careful and vigilant. Yes, I will be more careful. The woman now opened the door wider. The light from inside the room made the red coat on her body even more brilliant. However, looking at Hong, he felt a little scared. Perhaps he was haunted by women wearing red at night. Only then did Hong notice that this woman and the motel owner had a similar gesture. That is, both of their hands were always inside their coats, almost never seen outside. That would probably be normal if it were cold weather, but clearly it was not so bad now. Hong just kept it to himself and did not dare to mention it. It's late. You should go to bed early and remember to close the doors and windows. Put Lum Lum aside to relieve stress. Hong nodded slightly and smiled. The woman also walked out of the room. Hong still kept his eyes on her until she was out of sight before walking back inside. Hong suddenly felt a shiver run down his spine. When he remembered a detail, the woman's feet were wearing wooden clogs. Her footsteps were so soft, yet he didn't hear any sound at all. Remembering the time he came in here before, even though he walked very quietly, but the sound still echoed. Hong muttered, "Could be she has a problem." Hong didn't dare to think further, because he was afraid he would imagine even more horrifying things. The fear he experienced tonight was already enough. If he continued to torture himself with imaginations, he would definitely be exhausted. Fortunately, Hong no longer heard any strange sounds, only the ticking of the clock. Time passed by very heavily and arduously. But not long after, Huang's eyelids twitched slightly, and in his ears there was a sound like someone singing, a girl singing with sad and mournful tone. The night was deep. The water was cold. The moon hung in the air. Who understands whose heart? At this moment, Huang's eyes were completely open, but his whole body still did not dare to move. He was afraid of making a sound. He was afraid that the other person would discover him. It was not clear how long it took for the singing to gradually fade and then stop, but at this time Huang's whole body was covered in sweat. His face turned pale with fear, and when he thought he was suffocating, he slowly pulled the blanket over his head. But then Hong had to immediately pull up, because at this moment it was not singing but laughter, the laughter of a madman in love. It was stupid, careless, and terrifying. The unusual ghostly sounds continuously tortured Hong every second and minute. Perhaps in his life, this was the most frightening time. Interrupting the laughter, along with the silly monologue of the girl, a loud, angry sound rang out. "That girl, you don't sleep at night, and you're mumbling and singing something. I'll go up and beat you up right now." Although the sound wasn't too loud, and it came from downstairs, Hong could confirm that it was the voice of the boss, the one who led him here. After the shouting, the sound also stopped. Then the girl's wailing and screaming sounded, as if someone was dragging her away. At this moment, Hong heard the sound of the landlady's voice, as if she was trying to stop him from beating his daughter. "Oh, you. The child is a fool. We have to slowly teach it. You beat and scold her like that every day, then she will become autistic. It's all your fault, because you spoiled her, didn't teach her properly. If you can't wake her up, then leave it to me." A slap sounded. Hong could hear from up here. The girl's cry became even more intense. Even though he didn't see it with his own eyes, he could still vaguely imagine the scene downstairs at this moment. The loud noise in the middle of the night, made it impossible for Hong to fall asleep again. After lowering the blanket, Hong slowly opened the door again and stepped out. The sound was even clearer now. He just walked down step by step. Perhaps Hong did this out of curiosity, rather than necessarily wanting to advise him. After all, this was their family's private matter. He didn't even know what was going on, so why did he jump in to advise them? After going down to the first floor, Hong hid far away at a pillar and listened. Strangely, just a moment ago, everything was noisy, but now it was strangely quiet. Once again, Hong was stunned, not understanding what had happened. He had to mumble to himself, "How strange, was I dreaming just now?" Taking a deep breath to calm down, Hong continued to walk closer to the room. The light from the room was still dimly shining out. The closer he got, the more he felt the cold chills inside and became more obvious. Slightly opening his eyes to look inside, Hong was surprised because everything inside was completely different from what he thought. Inside was empty. There was no one. Hong could not believe his eyes. He looked around to find, but it was still the same. So, where did the sounds of arguing come from? The more he looked, the more certain he was that this room had been uninhabited for a long time, because all the furniture in this room was covered with thick layers of white dust. Surrounding the house on the walls, cobwebs were densely spread like nets, leaving no gaps. While still bewildered, Hong suddenly felt a chill behind his back. Then a hand suddenly placed on his shoulder, making him jump. When he turned around, Hong saw a girl standing there in a white dress, her eyes filled with sadness, looking at him and saying, "Who are you? Why are you here at night?" Huang's hands and feet were still shaking. His eyes were dazed and could hardly hide his fear. "Who are you? Who are you?" "You are the daughter of the landlord. You must be the one who came here to rent a room, right?" "That's right. Why did I hear noises downstairs like people arguing? But when I came down here, I didn't hear anything anymore?" The girl's face was a bit surprised. "What did you say?" "I didn't hear anything just now." "Or did you hear wrong?" Hong affirmed firmly. "No. There were definitely voices. I also heard singing. Did you stand on the balcony and sing just now?" The girl was even more surprised. "No, but you must have heard Lee's voice." "What do you mean? I don't understand." This story is very long. After a big mental shock a while ago, his mind suddenly became abnormal. Sometimes at night, he would go out to the balcony to sing and talk to himself. That affected the motel business, making his father very upset and frustrated. Hong was silent for a few seconds, as if he was thinking about something. Then he replied sympathetically, "So that's how it is. Maybe I heard wrong just now. But why haven't you gone to bed yet at this late hour?" "Oh, I don't know your name yet." "My name is Tui. And what's your name?" "My name is Hong. I'm on a business trip here this time. So I came here to stay for the night. But you still haven't answered my question. Why are you up so late?" Tui turned around and walked back to the railing, then held on to it, looked up into the distance and said, "I don't know either. It's been a long time since I had a good night's sleep. Every night, I go out here to watch the moon to relax." After that sentence, the two of them suddenly fell into silence. Hong didn't know whether to continue the conversation or say goodbye to her and return to the room. But then Tui took the initiative to start a conversation. "Mr. Hong, I know this question is a bit rude, but do you have a lover yet?" Hong was quite surprised by her question. It seemed like an overly necessary concern, even hidden behind those words, easily making people think of a girl trying to open her heart and give the green light. I'm sure you won't believe me, but I really don't have a lover yet." Strangely, Tui seemed to have known that in advance, so she wasn't surprised, feeling like she was just asking for the sake of it. "Me too. Sometimes I don't understand myself. There are many people pursuing me, but I've never been moved by anyone. Sometimes I even doubt myself, not knowing if I'm a third gender or not." Hearing that, Hong was a bit confused. "Why do you say that?" "I'm the same. I don't know why, but when I think about love, I suddenly feel very shy. But it's probably because the time hasn't come yet." Tui turned her head. She smiled charmingly but also meaningfully. She said, "Have you ever thought about being single for the rest of your life?" Once again, Tui surprised Hong with a blunt question that had no beginning or end. Hong just smiled slightly. "I've never thought about that, but probably not. I think that at a certain age, people will suddenly want to have a home to return to. However, at this time, I don't think it's really necessary. I want to strive for my career more." Tui let out a long sigh. "From a certain perspective, you are truly an ideal man. I wish you will soon find your other half." "Thank you. I wish you the same." Silence appeared once again. Between the two of them who had just met for the first time, there really wasn't much to say. That much was already too much. Seeing that it was time, when it was time to end the conversation, Hong spoke up. "I guess I'll take my leave to go back to my room first. You should go home and rest early too." Then Hong quietly returned, walked a distance. He turned his head and saw Tui still standing there, her eyes looking up at the sky with a thoughtful expression. Returning to the room, glancing at the clock. It was almost 2 a.m. But unlike early evening, the sleepiness in him was no longer intense. Hong lay back on the bed with a dazed look. Even though Tui had answered many of his questions earlier, but in his heart he still had many unanswered doubts. All the people he met inside this house, they all exuded something unusually mysterious. Even the stories and sounds were the same. They came and went without warning. All of those things spun Hong like a pinwheel, making him confused about what was real and what was fake, while he was still lost in his chaotic thoughts. Suddenly outside the motel gate, Hong heard the sound of a car horn honking loudly. He didn't know exactly who those people were, but honking in the middle of the night, like that, was somewhat uncivilized and impolite. From inside, the motel owner rushed out. His voice seemed a bit annoyed. "What are you doing honking so loudly in the middle of the night? Just say something." The two black cars still showed no signs of stopping. They drove straight into the yard, stopped near the lobby of the motel, and parked there. Seeing that, the motel owner became even more angry. He knocked hard on the glass door and shouted, "Why are you parking your car here? This is the walkway. Please move it neatly into that shed." The glass door slowly lowered. Inside, a man with a fierce face stuck his head out and glared. "Shut up, you talk too much. We like to park here, is that okay?" Seeing this guy's face and attitude, the owner knew for sure that they were not the type to be easily messed with. So he had no choice but to give in. "Oh, that's fine. You guys came here to rent a motel, right? So if you don't rent a motel, what are you going to do? Stop asking silly questions. Prepare 2 of the most VIP rooms for us right away." Yes, right away. Please get off the car." When all of them got off, the boss saw a total of 7 people. Each of them had a fierce face and a strong smell of alcohol. Among them, there was one person wearing a white outfit, completely different from the others. Even without asking, he could guess that this person was the leader here. Perhaps he was too drunk at this time, so his eyes kept closing, and when he went up the stairs, he had to be supported by 2 people. He didn't know if it was by accident or on purpose, but the boss arranged for them 2 rooms right next to Huang's room. That made Hong feel uneasy and worried. As soon as he heard them walking up the stairs, Hong had to quickly run out to lock the door and turn off all the lights in the room. He was all alone here. If something unfortunate happened at night, God would save him, because his room was right next to him and very quiet. He could hear almost everything they said. This time, Brotherkin didn't personally go and hand it over to young Master Tien, causing us so much trouble. Another person sighed and replied, "We have to let him try his hand, like father, like son. If we keep him locked in a cage, how can he be the king of the jungle?" "What you said is right, but let him only do small transactions. This one is too big. If something happens then." Before he could finish his sentence, the other person interrupted. "Shut your mouth. Do you think Brotherkin is stupid? This trip to young Master Tien is just a front, just riding around to see the flowers. He has already arranged everything. Everyone knows that. But I'm just worried that if an unexpected situation arises, young Master Tien doesn't have the experience to handle everything. So what are you and I going to do? Well, it's probably nothing. I'll take a quick nap." Lying in the next room, even though he only heard the 2 people talking, Hong couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If he guessed correctly, these people must be gangsters. They were planning to carry out some very dangerous mission. Hong even guessed 9/10 times that it was a contraband transaction. Hong didn't want to get involved with normal gangsters. These people were much more dangerous. Hong believed that if they discovered a threat, they would be ready to kill them mercilessly and ruthlessly. By some stroke of luck, Hong was put in an extremely dangerous situation on this business trip. Just a little carelessness, and he could immediately lose his life. Even if he was safe and sound tonight, it would still become an unforgettable memory in his life. The clock's hands were still ticking heavily. Compared to before, Hong was even more nervous and scared. Although ghosts were also very scary, they were nothing compared to those people on the wall. After an hour, he didn't hear any sound, as if all of them were fast asleep. The thought of sneaking out in the night flashed through Huang's mind, but he was also afraid that if he accidentally made a noise and woke them up, it would be very dangerous. After a moment of hesitation, Hong decided to do it, because if he didn't leave now, tomorrow morning when they woke up and found out that someone was in the room next door, he would definitely be in a lot of trouble. However, when he just stepped out of bed, Huang's heart skipped a beat because a voice suddenly rang out from the room next door. "I want a maid. Where are you guys? Go get some and bring them here for me right now. Hurry up." In the other room, Hong was like someone with an acupuncture point blocked, keeping one leg on the bed and one leg on the floor, not daring to move. "Mr. Tien, are you awake? I told you guys to bring girls here. What nonsense are you talking about? Hurry up. Hey, you drank too much today. It's best to rest. Tomorrow morning we still have important things to do. You bastard. Do you like to argue? Do you believe I can deal with you? The other person's voice was somewhat confused at this time. No, I don't dare. So you just wait here for me for a while. I'll go get some goods for you. Hurry up. I'm really hungry. I can't wait any longer. The next day, the sound of the door opening, followed by the sound of footsteps running away. Suddenly, Hong felt worried. He was afraid that Twee, the boss's daughter, would get into trouble. However, he was worried. But even with his father's advice, Hong did not dare to go out at this time. Those people on the other side could kill him like killing a mosquito. If he was lucky enough to survive, his body would probably be missing a few parts. From the third floor, Hong could still hear a man's voice shouting, "Boss, where's the boss? Come out here quickly. I have work for you." The boss's voice was somewhat worried. He replied, "Do you need anything else?" "That's right. Call me the best prostitute right away. But I tell you, our boss is very busy. He can't wait long. If he is not satisfied, I'm afraid this motel of yours will have difficulty continuing to operate." The motel owner was both worried and scared when he heard that, his voice trembling slightly as he replied, "About this, I really don't have that service. Can you go call somewhere else?" The other guy widened his eyes. "What are you talking about? What's the point of running a motel without that service? You'd better stop. I'll give you 10 minutes. If you can't call someone here, you know what the consequences will be." The other guy didn't give the owner a chance to explain. He immediately turned around and walked up the stairs. He didn't know what to do in front of the arrogance and domineering of these guys. He was sure they weren't joking. If he didn't do as they asked, they definitely wouldn't let him be. He intended to call the police, but after beating around the bush for a while, he didn't dare. It is true that the police can protect his family this time, but doing so will definitely make them hold a grudge, and the revenge later will be even more fierce. His situation at this moment is truly a dilemma. The last 10 minutes apiece have finally passed, and standing in front of him now is a guy with a face full of anger. "Do you think I only dare to talk, and don't dare do anything to you, right? Are you tired of living?" "Hey, you misunderstood. I don't dare to think like that. But I really don't have that service here, and I don't know who to call. I beg you. Here, I beg you. I beg you." As soon as he finished speaking, 2 kicks landed straight into his stomach, causing him to immediately collapse and lie on the ground, groaning. This guy still wouldn't stop, continuing to rush forward and attack the boss's face. The fat lady boss also rushed out of the room. "Hey, what are you doing? Let him go." When she just ran over, a slap like the sky hit her straight in the face. She staggered and fell face first onto the ground, blood from her mouth and nose flowing all over the floor. Because the commotion was so loud, the 2 daughters of the boss also rushed out of the room. Seeing that scene, both of them couldn't help but be terrified. "You, stop right now. If you dare to continue, I'll call the police." The guy was about to kick the boss's round face like a dumpling. When he heard Twee's voice, he immediately stopped. His eyes glanced from head to toe, as if he wanted to examine every inch of her flesh. Then he smiled a sinister, lewd smile and said, "Oh my God, the goods are here. Why didn't you 2 say so earlier?" Lying on the ground, despite the pain, the boss still tried to crawl up, clasped his hands and said, "I beg you, these are my 2 daughters. Please don't do anything to them. Shut your mouth for me. If you say anything more, I'll cut your tongue off." Then he turned to look at Lou and Twee and said, "So, do you 2 want to save your parents or not?" Looking at his appearance, without having to ask, the 2 of them knew what he wanted. Lou was scared and quickly behind her. Twee was no better but still tried to act tough and said, "What do you want? Do you know that doing so is breaking the law?" The other guy heard that and laughed mockingly. "You just woke up, so you're not fully awake yet, right? Were you thinking of using the law to threaten us?" "I'm so scared." Then he immediately changed his tone. "It's best to be obedient. Everything will be fine. If you serve, well, you might even get a big reward from the young master. But if not, you know what the consequences will be." It's clear that he didn't give the people here a choice, either obey or die. At this time, 3 more guys came down from upstairs. One of them spoke up. "What's wrong with you? You can't finish such a small task." I found the goods. Bro, what do you think of these two? As he spoke, he pointed at Lou and Twee. In front of the hungry eyes that seemed to want to eat them alive, the two of them could only tremble. The other guy nodded. Good. Better than expected. And this goods are 100% clean, right? Of course, bro. They're the daughters of the owners here. So what are you waiting for? Drag them up. Wait for Tien to finish eating. Then it will be our turn. The guys then immediately rushed over, grabbed the two people's hands, and dragged them away. Despite the cries and pleas from the boss, when he tried to chase after them, he was hit with 2 more punches that left him dizzy. At this time, Tien, still half awake and half drunk in the room, after seeing Twee and her sister, his eyes lit up. Good. This guy is quite good. After this trip, I will reward you guys. Saying that, he rushed over and grabbed Twee, like a wild animal that had been starved for a long time. Regardless of her resistance, he still tore all of her clothes off. Lying in the room next to Hong, he could imagine everything that was happening there. His blood was boiling, his hands clenched into fists that were purple with bruises. Even though to him, the two of them were strangers, but before that shameless, inhumane act, it was hard for him to stay calm. Furthermore, he had also spoken to Twee earlier and found her to be a gentle girl. Now that he saw them in danger, Huang's conscience couldn't help but torment him. However, he was still wise and sober enough not to give his life to them, to die in vain. Hong silently dialed a number and called the police. He had to sneak into the bathroom, speaking in a whisper to avoid being heard by the others. Even though he didn't want to hear, the sounds of crying and the savage, stimulating laughter from the next room continued to penetrate the wall. The rising anger made Hong feel like he was choking, feeling like his breath couldn't escape from his chest. If he were given an AK gun right now, he might dare to walk over there and empty the entire clip. Suddenly, Huang's phone rang, scaring him to the point of having a heart attack. Hong used the fastest speed he could to cover the speakerphone and turned off the phone. The moment just now almost made him faint. If the people on the other side heard it, he would definitely not be able to survive today. Fortunately, the sounds from the next room were still coming out steadily. The screams and cries of the two sisters were getting louder and louder. At this time, there were also sounds of beatings and curses coming from the room below. If you want to live, then sit still here. If you keep talking nonsense, I will slit your throat. I beg you to spare my daughter. You can beat and torture me however you want. Please don't hurt them. Thud. Immediately after that, a loud thud rang out. Even on the 3rd floor, Hong could hear it clearly. It felt like someone's head had just hit the wall. Grandpa! Grandpa, wake up! Grandpa! Grandpa! Lie on the ground at this time. The landlord was bleeding profusely. After the strong hit on the wall, his head felt like it had been split in two. No matter how much she shook him, he no longer responded. Even his stomach no longer showed signs of breathing. The landlady at this time could no longer keep calm. She rushed forward and grabbed the other man's neck and jerked him hard. However, how could she fight him back? He immediately gave her a punch to the face and then continuously held her head and pushed her down to the ground. Hearing the harsh sounds, Hong could not help but shiver. It was like each drum beat strongly in his brain. Huang's whole body stiffened, and immediately after that, he could no longer hear anything. Everything was silent, filled with death and grief. As if sensing that, Twee at this time used all her strength to struggle. Finally, she was able to throw Tien off her body. A guard standing outside the door did not have time to hold her back. Twee escaped and immediately ran down the stairs. When she saw the two corpses lying motionless in a pool of blood, her whole body was immediately shocked and stunned. Dad, Mom, and Dad. Twee rushed forward to hug them, but no matter how she called, how she shook them, they did not respond. The other guys had also chased after them, but before they could catch them, Twee had already rushed to the counter and pulled out a switchblade from the drawer. If you dare come here, I will kill you. She held the knife forward, her eyes filled with extreme anger. Seeing Twee's fierce and careless attitude, the guys did not dare to act immediately. Both sides stood still for about a minute. Then from afar, Tien walked over. His hand was grabbing her sister's hair and dragging her away. He looked at Twee and said, You better put down the knife. Immediately serve me. Otherwise, both of you will die today. Shut your mouth. Today you guys killed my parents. Even if I have to die, I will die with you. Tien at this moment slightly raised the corner of his lips and sneered. I thought he would continue to use reasoning to convince her, but that was not the case. Without saying anything, he suddenly pulled out a knife from his body and stabbed Liz straight into her body. A stream of hot blood spurted out, dyeing his entire arm red. Lou screamed in pain. Then her head fell down, no longer showing any reaction. Still not giving up, he continued to pull out the knife and repeatedly stabbed her many times. While stabbing him, he laughed loudly until Lee's whole body was riddled with wounds. Then he turned to look at Twee and said, It was you who killed him, not me. You bastard. Today I have to kill you. Twee could no longer control herself. She rushed straight to Tien like a mad person. The target of the knife was his throat. However, her goal was not easy to achieve. Tien was surrounded by people inside and outside. When she was about 2 meters away from where he was standing, Twee was hit by a baton on the head. The knife she was holding immediately fell down. Her whole body collapsed like a felled tree. They still did not stop, continuing to hit her head with loud blows, until her head was distorted. Even her brain was white. Hong had already stepped out of the room. Standing from afar, he watched that direction. The sight of a group of thugs surrounding and bullying 2 weak girls made his blood boil. After finishing, a junior asked, What should we do with these bodies now, Uncle? Lighting a cigar, Tien calmly said, You can chop up their parents' bodies and throw them in different places. As for these 2, bring them up to my room? What are you doing there? Uncle? They're dead. Is that your business? If you ask me again, I'll cut your tongue off. Just do whatever I tell you to do. The other guy was scared pale, quickly obeyed, and did as he was told. After the 2 bodies were taken away, there were clanking and clanking sounds from behind. Each part of the boss's body was quickly chopped off. Witnessing that scene, Hong was extremely haunted. His whole body was so weak that he thought he couldn't stand. Not daring to look any further, Hong hurriedly walked back to his room, because he knew that they would return soon. He thought that Tien had brought the 2 corpses into the room, but it turned out that he was a perverted monster, not even sparing corpses. He continued to commit depraved acts, continuously with the 2 corpses, until he felt exhausted before stopping. Seeing that scene, even his subordinates could not help but feel cold. In terms of brutality, he was even more brutal than his father, Mr. Ken, a notorious boss for many years. Because of continuous mental torture for many hours, Huang's whole body seemed exhausted. Then suddenly he jumped, because he heard Tien's words coming from behind. Now you guys drag these 2 corpses and throw them into the next room for me. That sentence made Hong feel like he had just fallen into a bottomless pit of death. He sat up like a spring, his eyes darting around the room to find a place to hide. He kept praying to God and Buddha in his heart, hoping that the room next door that it mentioned was not his room. However, it seemed that God and Buddha could not help him when the sound of footsteps was approaching this side. In a split second, Hong made a decision. He quickly stuffed all the luggage he brought into his backpack, then quickly crawled under the bed and lay still. The sound of footsteps and the rustling sound as if someone was being dragged on the ground became clearer and clearer. Until the door opened, Huang's heart seemed to stop beating. He raised both hands to cover his mouth, sweat pouring out all over his body like he was taking a shower. At this moment, if he was just a little careless, Hong could very well log out of Earth immediately. The first body was dragged straight into the bathroom by a guy. Looking at the shape, Hong knew it was not Twee. However, for some reason, they didn't bring the second body in there, but instead threw it right next to the bed, only half a meter away from where Hong was lying. Hong was so scared that he almost cried out, looking at Twee's miserable appearance at the moment. Her head was deformed to the point of being crooked. Only 2 eyes were still intact and red, staring at him. Looking at it for only a few seconds, Hong had to immediately turn away, because he was not sure if he would scream in fear. Unfortunately for him, the other 2 guys didn't leave the room right away, but just sat there. I thought they were staying, but it turned out that each of them was sharing some white powder and then lighting a lighter to inhale and inhale. He squatted right next to Twee's body, his butt facing Huang's face, less than half a meter away. After getting high, he sat down, his whole body sprawled out against the bed, and said, "It's so good. It seems like this one is better than the last one. I think so, too. This one seems stronger, purer. How nice it would be if we could use this every day." "Are you dreaming? This is a special one, several times more expensive than the regular one. Can only gives us a little bit every now and then." Then the two of them sat around talking nonsense, all about the things that addicts talk about when they are high on drugs. Although he was impatient at the moment, Hong was less scared, because if they were still sober, that would be what he had to worry about. But unfortunately for Hong, after they were drunk and talking nonsense, they did not return to their room, but instead lay down on the floor and fell asleep right there. Hong remained lying under the bed in the same position for several hours, until his whole body was exhausted, and he lowered his head and left without knowing when. Not knowing how long had passed, Hong suddenly startled. His head hit the bed frame painfully. At this moment, a loud alarm sounded in his ears, like an ambulance siren. It took a few seconds for the memories to come back to his mind. Hong was startled and looked around the house to see where they were. However, he looked back and forth, looked around and saw nothing. Even Twee's body was nowhere to be seen. This incident made Hong so surprised that he could not explain it. He slowly stuck his head out to make sure that the group of people were no longer there. Then he cautiously opened the door, stepped outside, and looked down. At this time, several police cars had arrived at the motel's yard. A group of people in neat uniforms, guns on their shoulders, were ready. A man's voice was clear, pointing the loudspeaker toward the motel, and said, "Everyone inside, listen up. This place is tightly surrounded. Raise your hands above your head and slowly step out." The man's voice was firm and repeated as if urging. Hong did not dare delay and hurriedly followed. After seeing him step down, the group immediately pointed their guns, making him not dare make any wrong move. Only when they confirmed that he was in no danger did the group descend. A man approached and asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" "My name is Hong. I was the one who called police just now." "So it was you? Why didn't you pick up the phone when we called just now?" "Yes. The situation was dangerous at that time. I was afraid that I would be discovered if I answered the phone." "So that's it. Please tell us what happened here. And where are those people you mentioned?" After that, Hong quickly recounted everything. After listening, Captain Bach couldn't help but be surprised. What did you say? You said a massacre happened here last night?" "Yes. I swear that everything I said is true. If I lie even half a word, I will be held responsible before the law." Mr. Bach looked straight at Hong with a strange look. It wasn't like he was suspecting him of lying, but wanted to see if his mind was normal or not. "Do you know what you're saying? All the people in this family died a few years ago. Since then this house has been abandoned, no one lives there." Hong was shocked by Mr. Bach's words. "Impossible? Definitely not. Yesterday I clearly saw them still alive. It was the owner of the motel who brought me here. His family also had 2 daughters named Lu and Twee. Last night they were brutally murdered. I saw it with my own eyes." Hearing Hong speak, the one who was surprised at this moment was Mr. Bach, because according to what he knew, the owner and his wife had 2 daughters whose exact names were Lu and Twee. "What did you say? You saw them killed with your own eyes. Is that right?" "Yes, I saw it clearly. I also know that the leader of them is named Tien. It seems he has a father named Can. If I guess correctly, these people are preparing to do some important business. It seems to be smuggling contraband." Mr. Bach quickly stopped Hong from continuing. Then he pulled his hand to a far place. "If you are not busy, I would like to invite you to the committee to work privately. This matter is extremely important. I hope you will cooperate." "What do you mean? Or, do you guys suspect that I am involved in this case?" Mr. Bach shook his head. "No, you misunderstood me. We completely believe that you are innocent. It's just that what you said is related to a serious crime that happened many years ago, and up to now the perpetrator has not been found. If you can provide more clues, we can definitely find him." Hearing that, Hong was bewildered. "What serious crime? I still don't understand what you are talking about." "It is a serious crime you just mentioned. However, it happened several years ago, not last night as you said. However, I find that what you just revealed completely coincides, because I invited him to the headquarters to work privately to ask for more information. Hong shivered slightly when he heard Mr. Bach's words. At this point, there was no more doubt. It was definitely the unmistakable truth. But the events that happened last night he saw, it could not be fake either. So what was going on? Huang's mind suddenly turned around in confusion. He did not know what was real and what was fake anymore. At this moment, there was only one explanation. That was that Hong had seen a ghost last night. Actually, Mr. Bach had the same thought in his head as Hong. It was just that he did not want to say it out loud. Reluctantly, Hong had a call to postpone his business trip so that he could coordinate the investigation with Mr. Bach. When he returned to the headquarters, Hong recounted in detail the events that had happened last night at the Bin Motel. Mr. Bach listened from beginning to end without missing a word. Even sweat was dripping from his forehead. Even though the two of them were sitting in a cool, air-conditioned room, what Hong told was so detailed, realistic, and logical, he could not find any loopholes in his words. This showed that these could not be baseless fabrications. He himself could not understand why Hong could know so clearly about the events that had happened in that case. After that, he gave Hong many photos of the suspects. Hong picked up the stack of photos and flipped through them one by one. When he got to the 8th or 9th photo, his whole body suddenly trembled. The face on the photo was none other than Tian, a perverted and cruel scoundrel. Hong would never forget him in his entire life. It's this guy, it's him. He's Tian, the most despicable guy I've ever met. Mr. Bach calmly asked again, "Are you sure? You should know that your words right now cannot be wrong." "I'm 100% sure. Even if he turns to ashes, I'll recognize him." "Okay, we believe you this time. Leave your information. If you need anything, we'll contact you. Now you can go home." A few months after finishing the business trip, Hong suddenly received a call from Mr. Bach. "Hello, is this Mr. Hong?" "Yes, who is it?" "This is Bach. I am calling today to represent the police, to express my deep gratitude to you. It was thanks to the information you provided that helped us solve the case that happened at the Bin Motel years ago. After discussing and asking for the leader's opinions, we decided to award you a certificate of merit. We will have someone deliver the certificate to your home. Or, if you want, we will give it to you on a very special occasion, so that many people will know about it." On the other end of the line, Hong was both happy and scared when he heard that. He said, "Yes, then you can just send it to my home. No need to make a big fuss about it. I didn't do anything about this incident. I just said what I saw." "Okay, we will do as you wish. If you want to find out more details, go to today's latest newspaper. Type the Bin Motel Massacre and the Terrifying Mysteries Hidden, and you will know." "Okay, I will hang up first. Goodbye." Hong quickly picked up the phone and turned to the new newspaper page. An eye-catching headline appeared. Below it were dense comments, showing that it was receiving special attention from the community. The ringleader received the highest sentence of death. However, that did not surprise Hong as much as another detail, which was that after a period of committing the crime, Tian's mind suddenly became insane in an inexplicable way. Although his father, Mr. Kan, had taken him to all the hospitals in the country and abroad, they could not find the cause. All day long, he just locked himself in his room, laughing and talking nonsense to himself. As time went on, his illness became more and more serious. At this time, he developed a strange hobby, which was drinking his own blood. One time, when Mr. Kan accidentally entered his room and witnessed the incident, he was shocked. He was using a sharp knife to continuously cut all over his body. He reached out to catch the drops of blood and then put them in his mouth to suck them deliciously. Good. Looking at his appearance at that time, it was no different from a demon. He was so terrified that he almost fainted. Later, to prevent it from harming itself, he had to use a chain to tie it tightly to the house pillar, and at meal times he brought food and water to feed it. Raising it was no different from raising an animal. And then the fateful day for the father and son also came. It was sentenced to death, and he was sentenced to life in prison by the court. That was the end of a notorious boss with the nickname Kanham, a name that just hearing it was enough to make the gangsters at that time tremble. Back to the present. The cigarette in Huang's hand had already burned out, and the cup of coffee placed next to it had long since dried up. Glancing down at the clock, it was almost 12 o'clock. Huang stood up, stretched, and went to bed to rest. That night, he dreamed of them again, but this time on the faces of the four people were bright smiles. They waved their hands as if to greet him, and then the four of them held hands into a blinding white light. Their images gradually faded away until they disappeared completely. The light then also disappeared. What remained in his eyes at this time was only a desolate and cold motel. The story ends here. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.